Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIC's third webinar of 2025, in which we will talk about industrial cybersecurity services. My name is Constanze. I'm an AIC analyst and the moderator for today's session. Just shortly before we going to start, we would kindly like you to invite to ask your questions for our Q&A answer at the end. To do so, just use the question and answer panel on the right side of your screen. The question will be sent to me, and I will direct them to our expert. Talking about expert, now I will pass a word over to Thomas Menze, the senior consultant at AIC Europe. Please, Thomas, start.
Yeah, thank you, Constanze, for this warm introduction. So, yeah, as you said, we are discussing industrial cybersecurity service. So we did a certain analysis here because the regulatory requirement and framework is changing, and sometimes external services, external cybersecurity services to be precise, I would say helpful to mitigate risks. And what we are going to discuss today is on the following slides. So we clustered the ICS services into an outside view, an inside view, and ICS services available or types. Let's start with the outside view. What's that? Outside view is really the threat landscape, because that coming from the outside, the attacker sitting outside, and the regulatory landscape is something which pressurizes the industry as well, and we allocated that to the outside view. What is the inside view? First of all, the inside view, we divided the inside view into an IT and an OT perspective, because both parties have different challenges, and that's the reason why we split it up. And last but not least, we analyzed a little bit the ICS service types available in the market. So it isn't new, but the importance of external cybersecurity services becoming more and more important. And we did really a Champions Radar report here, and one citation from this report is really same thing. So what we see is the threat landscape in the outside view, and of course all these new regulatory requirements, especially here in Europe, justifying more and more cybersecurity services. And that was our motivation really for this service radar.
So let me just paint a picture for the discussion or the presentation to start. So we all realize industrial companies have become increasingly dependent on digital technologies to run and optimize their operations. But with this digitalization comes, of course, a growing risk of cyber attacks targeting their production systems, the supply chain, and critical infrastructure. So while many companies may have already established their own ICS teams, the complexity and the evolving nature of these threats may often demand specialized support of ICS services to help these organizations to strengthen their defenses and minimize the risk of downtime or safety incidents caused by a variety of cyber events. These services may complement the internal expertise with specialized knowledge, advanced tools, and a broader perspective from real-world industrial experience. So, Thomas, what do you see as the main driver for external ICS services?
Yeah, that's a complex. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Would it be regulatory pressure, customer requirements, shortage of skilled labor staff in-house, or the increasing number of cybersecurity security incidents? Please.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and it's a complex scenario and a complex world we live in. So let me give you a short answer to your questions. So in our discussion with the market, we realized that roughly 20 or 25% of the companies, they consider cybersecurity measures as not so important because they are under control. And with that, we thought ourselves, that is maybe a wrong assumption. And they have to do more. And that was our initial trigger to really analyze this market and develop these European championship radar for ICS services. And to answer your question directly, I personally think, here in Europe, the regulatory pressure is one of the main drivers to consider really ICS services, because there's a lot of paperwork included, there's a lot of admin work included, and that is normally much too much for the standard operator. And that could be really a door opener for industrial cybersecurity services. Agreed? Makes sense. Okay, going any further, going to this outside view. We said already the outside view is really something important. And what happens there? What's happen in the threat landscape? So we see more and more AI-generated attacks. We all know AI. We all know AI is quite sophisticated. And we all can imagine that with the help of AI, really sophisticated cyber attacks can be generated against industrial sites. On the other side, we see a clear trend regarding digitalization, especially digitalization at the edge. So we see more and more network points, more and more interfaces at the edge. And of course, these are all possible vulnerabilities. Every interface could be a vulnerability and needs to be protected. And in the outside world, so phishing and ransomware activities increase dramatically. And again, this is really pressure from the outside. And again, another citation from our real strategy report. We said before that industrial cybersecurity services can be used to mitigate these kind of influences coming from the outside world to really protect the operations in the industry. So again, another outside view is really the regulatory the new regulatory requirements, because we see that we require more and more compliance reports. Some operators are classified as critical infrastructure, so they have specific duties to cover, but also the automation suppliers, they have, or the control system suppliers, they have to be conformed to these new regulatory things. And this is not just a European thing. This happens around the world. So in Europe, we see the NIS2 directives. In the US, we need the CIRA and PSYC directives. And in Asia, we see new security laws on the horizon. So it is really not a question to do something on top of the normal cybersecurity activities. It is maybe we have to implement, or the industry have to implement completely new cybersecurity processes to harden their installations.
So what we're saying is that in today's industrial environment, the operators are facing a double pressure. So on one side, the threat landscape is rapidly escalating with increasingly sophisticated attacks targeting operational technology and critical infrastructure. So, and on the other hand, you have the regulatory requirements that are becoming stricter, demanding continuous monitoring, reporting, and of course the compliance with it. In this combination, the industrial operators are put in a position where maintaining an effective in-house cybersecurity capability is both resource intensive and very complex. So from your perspective as or in-house expert, what is the stronger motivator for this consideration to use outsourced cybersecurity services, the need to keep pace with the evolving threat landscape, or the pressure to meet regulatory and compliant demands? Because you just mentioned both of these aspects.
Yeah, Constanze, you're spot on. You're really spot on. And again, from my point of view, at this moment in time, the administrative work, the regulatory pressure is a driver, because you said correctly, let's say in most of the applications, the cybersecurity system is up and running and under control. So every company, they have something in place. But on top of that now starts all this administrative work to be in line with the directive and the new regulations. And that is, from my point of view, a real driver for external cybersecurity services, because if you try to handle that with your existing stuff, then there is a high risk that this stuff is quickly overloaded. And so in the beginning, I think the most important driver for external cybersecurity service are the new directives. Mm-hmm. And later on, of course, improvements in the cybersecurity setup and hardening the system. Agreed?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Coming from the outside view to the inside view. So what's really happening in our companies and operations? And as I said before, first of all, we have to differentiate between IT and OT, because all the industrial operations, they have IT parts and they have OT parts, and the cybersecurity maturity in these two parts are on a definitely different level. Let's say on the IT side, we have normally the tools in place to protect, let's say, the IT worlds, to protect our cloud setups and whatever, and we have really experts working with this setup to hardening the IT side. The situation on the OT side is a little bit different, because here we normally do not have enough experienced cybersecurity experts to hardening our OT world. Industrial cybersecurity is not the core competence of the OT business. The core competence of OT and automation is really to conduct control systems who are producing something according to recipes or whatever. So the cybersecurity aspect comes on top, and we do not really educate right now expert for these kind of OT tasks. And then on top of that, the critical infrastructure. So the energy, the water, healthcare or public transportation part, they are counted to the critical infrastructure, and they have special requirements from a cybersecurity point of view. And this all together makes the life for the operators harder to pace up with the cybersecurity directives and being in line with the regulations. So on top of that, we have now the service suppliers, the industrial cybersecurity service suppliers. And there we have three different types, or I wouldn't call it types. There are suppliers with three different backgrounds. First of all, the big IT OT platform providers. These are normally big infrastructure companies or consulting companies, and their background is really to secure complete platform from edge to cloud completely, with other words, IT and OT. Then we have service suppliers coming with a control system background. So these are the global automation suppliers for control system, and they add more and more industrial cybersecurity capabilities around their offerings to help customers to be in line with the regulation, and to help customers, of course, to sustain and harden their control systems. And then we have some special providers. And these special providers, they're looking for anomaly detection. So they are really trying to identify abnormal communication in the OT networks. It can be used in IT, and in IT is quite famous, but it is relative new in OT. It happens in OT maybe for the last 5 to 10 years, nothing more. And because of this complex situation, we triggered this radar view. So that means we are trying to give an overview, to give guidance, what kind of industrial cybersecurity services are available in the market, and how are these different suppliers really ranked, and what they do. And we call this thing an European Cybersecurity Champions Radar. And it looks like a radar screen. You see a screenshot here. And this radar screen has more or less 3 different axes or dimensions. The first one is what we see later is the bubble size. The bubble size represent, let's say, the revenue a service supplier achieves with this service business. Then we have as a vertical axis the experience level. The experience level is how much components, how much know-how is available with the supplier to protect OT control equipment. And then we have, last but not least, the solution capability, and that is this circular view here. It starts from the far left to the top right. And this indicates how powerful, how complete is really the service offering of a certain supplier. And this kind of view we have used to give operators an overview what's happened in the market, what are the possible service suppliers, and the operators are then in the position they can really think, hey, what kind of in-house service is available, and where can I complete or add some external service resources or know-how to my in-house resources to have at the end a complete picture to protect the whole control equipment.
So this market for the industrial cybersecurity services, as you just mentioned, is very diverse, and service providers may come from very different backgrounds and provide different strengths and opportunities. So for the operators, this variety might present an opportunity, but also a challenge, as choosing the right partner depends on these different perspectives they will offer, but as well as on the specific security needs of your own operation. So Thomas, looking ahead, how do you envision the right balance between keeping critical cybersecurity capabilities in-house for control and oversight, while leveraging external service providers for their expertise, the scalability, and the compliance support?
Yeah, this balancing is not an easy task. And the most common likelihood could be that you really that an operator start to be in line with the directives and regulations. Because of that, they maybe use an external service providers to just deliver the proof that they are doing everything in line with the directives. But this is only the starting point. The most important thing is really the operator or the company has to kick off a complete process. They have seriously to think about what kind of competences are available, cybersecurity competences, of course. So what kind of competences are available in-house? Then secondly, they have to think regarding their criticality. How much is this operation under attack? And then they can do a simple gap analysis. And if they see in some areas they need additional protection, then they can use, let's say, something like the Champions Radar for cybersecurity services to really complement these kind of gaps and close the gaps by using external providers. So it is not a one-fit-all solution. It is really a complex and ongoing process, because the criticality of the plant and maybe the internal skill set and the availability of in-house experts may change from time to time.
just the flexibility of having a provider from outside, what you mentioned about scalability, but also perhaps project work when certain amount of compliances compliance for certain rules has to be done at a certain moment. I think that would be very interesting.
Exactly, and that is an interesting fact. So most of the service suppliers, they offer modular services. It means you can really cherry pick what kind of service is required, and you can book or cancel certain services. So that keeps exactly the flexibility, but we will come later to this topic. Okay. So going any further. So again, really looking a little bit more in the services offered by these different service suppliers. And again, we have here as first the companies with the IT/OT platform background. So they normally have really a good overview regarding IT and OT interfacing and digital transformation, so they can handle that. They, as I said before, they offer modular platforms to really adapt the service platform exactly to the needs of the operator. Most of these services run as a subscription model. They offer managed services as well. That means they can be with you 24/7 to really protect and monitor your plant. And sometimes really important, but hopefully not too often, they offer disaster recovery. So if something happens, so they have, let's say, backup system and archiving system in place to really recover the control system and try to be as fast as possible, be back online with the control system. So that was the first category. The second category are then really the control system suppliers. So these system suppliers say, their background is really the control system itself. These are the global giants for automation, and they offer modular OT services as well. So normally their focus is on the OT bit, because that is definitely their core competence. They have a strong focus on the conformity, because they see the pressure that their systems has to be in line with the new directives, and they help operators to do their bit. And they do OT assessments. That means they know, especially in plants who are running maybe for 20, 25 or 30 years, it is important to get a good overview what kind of assets are in my plant, because I can only protect what I know. And they help to get really an overview, even for multi-vendor application. And what we see by really researching these champions radar, that these companies are now more and more collaborating with IT service providers as well, to offer similar things that the platform providers we discussed before. So most of the control system service providers collaborating with IT companies to offer cybersecurity from OT to IT as one platform and one service, because that is really the market need. Coming to the last bit, and the last bit are these special suppliers or these special service suppliers. And again, their focus is really normally anomaly detection and endpoint protection. They are looking into ransomware attacks, because ransomware, I said this in the beginning, and phishing are two activities who are really painful, and a lot of accidents starting with ransomware or phishing. And by the way, a ransomware attack normally attacks simultaneously IT and OT. And if it finds one weak spot, it is in your communication network, and the trouble starts. Often these kind of anomaly detection tools are available as one platform. They are ready to use. So it's a piece of software with or without hardware sensors to monitor the traffic in the OT world. And they are really focusing on intrusion detection. And these are really interesting partners if you want to add, or if you want to close after your gap analysis, if you want to close some cybersecurity issues by not using full service suppliers, you can really use this kind of intrusion detection system to complete your security concept. And again, they have the flexibility that can be used by the internal experts, or it is made available as a third-party service. That means the provider of the system is the service supplier on its own. Okay, going further, you see we ranked a lot of these different topics. We have different service suppliers, we have a different threat landscape, we have different setups for IT and OT operation. And this was all researched and mapped into a Champions Radar. And we made it relatively simple because we have used a proven in-use mapping, and that is the NIST security framework. So we have simply used the protect, detect, response, and recover approach to understand what kind of hardware and software and what kind of services are really available with the different suppliers. That was the first ranking aspect for the Champions Radar. Then we allocated different levels, experience levels, and we have used 5 levels to convert these service offering into a heat map. And you can see the heat map here. Here on the left-hand side, we have the different criteria. We have here on the top hand the different suppliers, and we have here really the different levels these suppliers achieved from the experience point of view. And all this together is then pressed into this industrial cybersecurity service radar. And remember, the bubble size indicates the service revenue these kind of suppliers achieving in their world. And that is exactly the view which is beneficial for the operators, because you see here at the end a couple of smaller bubbles. These are normally the anomaly detection suppliers, because they are very specialized. Their maturity level is a bit lower than a platform service supplier, but they are highly specialized. And of course, their revenue is smaller simply because their service business is smaller. Then here somewhere in the middle, we have the bigger bubbles, and these bigger bubbles are normally the control equipment service suppliers. They are offering services, security services around their components. And on top, far right, you have then the big platform, network, or consulting companies offering IT to OT cybersecurity platform as a service. They have, of course, the biggest bubble. They achieve the biggest revenue, but it doesn't mean they have always the highest experience. That depends a little bit. And with this view, every operator can rank themselves, where sits from a cybersecurity point of view, from a cybersecurity experience point of view, the own company, what is the criticality of the company, and what are maybe some partners can be used to add additional services to protect the control equipment even better. I know it's a big thing, but we are trying to simplify the view a little bit. And again, that was the motivation really to develop this kind of cybersecurity champions radar. Constanze, was it beneficial for you to follow my?
Very much so. Thank you very much, Thomas. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank our attendees for joining us today for this presentation of the Champions Radar on European industrial cybersecurity services. As we have you here, Thomas, we can just delve slightly deeper into the findings and address some of the questions that our audience has shared with us.
Okay.
Let me look at this.
Yes.
There was a question about, does the report cover all major service providers in the European industrial cybersecurity market?
No, to be honest, no. It is a snapshot. We covered all the different service supplier categories and we ranked the categories. But if we include all service providers, then I would say the radar screen is completely overloaded, and that was not our intention. So we selected, let's say, typical companies to show how they are positioned in the radar, and all the rest can be done by face-to-face conversation, or if we implemented a couple of processes to do a gap analysis on specific operations.
Okay. The question is if the indicators that you used for evaluating the service providers, are they aligned with industry standards and end user requirements?
Yes, normally yes, because we have tried to be as practical as possible. As I said, we have used the NIST security framework. So this is something really comes from the practice. And remember this heat map, we did the categorization of the maturity of the different services. And this categorization was more or less directly taken from the research and discussions we had with end users. So that means the categorization in the radar is more or less a one-to-one how we conduct a gap analysis for cybersecurity in certain environments. And because of that, I would say yes, it was a very practical approach and maybe less science related, but something which an operator easily understands and follow.
As you know, I like a practical approach. So the next question is one for me also. How do you think the end users can leverage the insights you provide in this report to make informed decisions about their cybersecurity strategies?
Yes, so our intention with this report are that the operators get more or less guidance how can they survive in this new regulatory and directive world by maybe using external cybersecurity services? And secondly, so let's say that is maybe a very time-sensitive point, being or complying to the directives. And secondly, that is the most important thing, start thinking regarding in-house capabilities, criticalization of the attack vectors, and level of experts and skill level available in the operation, that they really start monitoring their cybersecurity status against can we handle that in-house on our own, which might be correct for the global chemical and oil and gas companies, but smaller, medium to smaller companies, they might think we have to add here and there external cybersecurity services to comply with the regulation and using the latest technologies regarding cyber attacks to hardening our setup. So that was the motivation, giving a short-term help comply to the regulation and offering a long-term thinking process how to monitor the criticality of the plant and maybe take corrective action.
Thank you again, Thomas. That was very insightful. And thank you for answering your questions. And thank you again to you, the attendees, for being with us, for participating in this webinar on the Champions Radar on European Industrial Cybersecurity Services. As you see on this last slide, we would appreciate if you would visit our European industry platform. You could follow us on social media channels, and always interesting if you would participate in our monthly automation survey, which gives us the possibility to gauge the sentiment and then share these results with you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your interest.